Hello, my name is Sophie. Welcome back to the New Forms Apparel studio. In this tutorial, we'll be making a simple sew linen tunic that I designed. This tunic will be easy sew, and as well, it's a zero waste pattern design, so there'll be no fabric wasted. Depending on size, you'll only need about a metre of fabric. Let me talk you through some of the details. The tunic has a high boat / neckline. It's a boxy shape with side splits and simple armholes. All the seams are enclosed on the inside, so no need for a serger or overlocker. A really good technique I teach in this tutorial is how to mitre the corners of the tunic for that neat, smart finish. And of course, this wonderful sash belt that pulls the top in at the waist and is flattering for all figure types. So let's have a look at fabrics.
I would recommend using linen for this design. Due to its easy sew neckline, I find linen is the best fabric. I'm using a heavyweight linen for demonstration purposes that I sourced from Ikea. Maybe experiment with some gauze or sheer linens if you're feeling more confident. I would highly recommend the fabric store heavyweight linen for this tunic. It's a beautiful fabric that has a good weight to it, but is still soft with a drape and will last for many washes. For thread, I'm using Resant thread in navy. Decide how you want this tunic to fit. These are my measurements for an oversized loose fit. I'll be making the size small in this tutorial. There'll also be a link to these sizes in the description.
You're going to need some rulers. I'm lucky enough to have these big pattern making rulers and this gridded pattern making ruler. You can buy both of these online or from your sewing supply stores. You're going to need a measuring tape and some chalk. Put your fabric right side to right side, selvage to selvage. Make sure that the side you're cutting from is completely straight. Measure across your desired width. I'm making the size small today, so I'm measuring across 66 centimeters. Line that all up with your ruler, then rule in the line. Measure across another 20 centimeters. This will be your belt. You should have two rectangles now, a bigger one and your smaller one. This is the main back and front. This rectangle will be the belt. What we're going to do now is rule in the seam allowances. The seam allowance for the top is 3 centimeters. So what we're going to do is line up our ruler or whatever ruler you have or measuring tape. Now we're going to put in the seam allowance for the belt on either side, and that is 1 centimeter. Find that original line that you drew, and you should have 1 centimeter seamage on that side, 3 centimeter seams on this side. And we're going to cut down that line. But make sure you check before you cut. Always check. Now we're going to cut out the belt. Make sure you're cutting the right line here. You should have 1 centimeter seam line, 1 centimeter seam line on that side, and we're cutting this line here. Should have two pieces, the belt and the main. And what we need to do is cut the folded end on the main here. And very carefully get your scissors. You can open this up if you like, or you can cut along the line this way. We should have 3 pieces: the belt and the main, back and front. Mark in your 3 centimeter seam along the top. Then mark in your 2 centimeter hemline. Now you're ready for step 2. For this step, we're going to sew in a 1 centimeter fold around the side seams and the neckline, but not the hem. This will stop the fabric from fraying and will be a part of the enclosed seam on the inside, like so. Have your fabric piece open with the wrong side facing up, and start to fold in an edge at exactly 1 centimeter and press. Repeat that on both pieces around the side seams and the neckline. If your fabric is very bulky, when you get to these corners, you can just cut off .5. Lay your fabric pieces right side to right side and just check that at this point that all the pieces line up. If they don't line up, adjust if you need to. If you're working with a heavyweight fabric, maybe go up a needle size from an 80 to a 90. For a continuous sewing line, start sewing your piece at the right hand corner of the hem and the side seam. You should have 2 pieces that look like this, that you've edged around the side seams and the neckline. And now you're ready to start the neckline. Place your pieces right side to right side, lining up the 2 corners perfectly, and pin. To make this top sit nicely, I like to make my neckline quite wide. I make mine about 33 centimeters wide. That's about 16.5 from the center there. If you want to tailor it to your size, you can measure it from shoulder strap area to shoulder strap area and find your personal fit. We're going to sew in the shoulder seams from here to here with a 2 centimeter seam. Line up with the sewing machine guide. It's really important that you try it on at this point and make sure the neck is the right width for you and that it can go over your head. If it's not right, at this point you really need to adjust it. We're going to iron the shoulder seams and the neckline open at 2 centimeter seam. Take this to the sewing machine now and do a continuous sewing loop all around the shoulders and the neckline
all around to the other side and then back. That's the neckline completed. Now we need to decide how long we want our armholes. I make mine about 25 centimeters long. Measure down from the shoulder to about 25 centimeters, 24 centimeters. Line up your fabric, pin. Then fold the top over and pin in the same place on the other side. We do the same with the side split. I make mine about 13 centimeters long plus the 2 centimeter hem. So measure up from the bottom 15 centimeters. Pin. Fold your top over. Before we iron this, try it on again and make sure that the armholes are sitting right for you now. Iron the seams open. I start about midway and work my way up to the top of the shoulder, measuring 2 centimeters as I go.
There are a few ways you can mitre a corner. We're going to do the ironed version, not the snipped version, as we don't want to snip into that seam we made. Of course, if this is too advanced for your skill level right now, you can just simply fold in the corners and sew in place like so.
In the last step, we ironed in a 2 centimeter seam, side seam. Now we're going to iron in a 2 centimeter hem. Look for the ironed in square and fold that up and iron across like so. Turn that out and place the 2 ironed lines together and pin that in place. We're going to sew along that ironed in line there with right sides to right side, so it should look like this. We're going to sew along that ironed line. You could draw it in as well if you wanted a better guideline. It should look like this. And what we're going to do is pull it through, and we're looking for it to be sitting really nicely, meeting up here. Once you've got to this point and you've mitered all your corners and you're confident in how they're sitting, You can go through and trim them back. Get rid of some of that bulk. So it should be one continuous sewing stitch, doing the side seams and the hem and the armholes all at once. Just be careful as you're sewing that you don't get any of the other tunic caught up underneath while you're sewing. It can be a bit fiddly, so just go slowly. When you get to these corners, just wind the sewing machine wheel into the corner and then leave your needle in the fabric as you turn. Line it back up again. And away you go. So I've nearly come to the end here, where I'm going to close off this continuous sewing line that we've done to close down the side seams and the hem. Time to do the belt now. So because we folded right side to right side with the fabric at the beginning, this should be the wrong side. So we want to fold once again right side to right side. What we're going to do is pin. We're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to start our stitching there with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. We're going to go along there all the way down, but when we get to the other end we're going to leave a small gap to pull it through. So mark that with 2 pins, so you remember, you turn your corner, you stop there and back tack. We're going to pull this belt through, and what I like to do is just grab something like a wooden spoon and place it like so. Before we iron it, we'll just pull our corners through. You can do that a few ways, but I just like to work out those corners like that. Once you've pulled your corners through, and just work your seam flat a little bit. As we get to this bit, we're just going to iron in the 1 centimetre seam allowance just here. We're going to hand stitch that closed. Get yourself a needle and some thread. Make a knot on the end. We're going to close off the end of this belt with a slip stitch. Once you get to the end,
to make a tiny knot.